First contact with legacy. Commander Lyra Harrison stood motionless on the bridge of the ESS Pathfinder, her eyes fixed on the massive structure that shouldn't exist. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the cosmos could offer. She was wrong. "Commander," called out Navigation Officer James Kumar, his dark fingers dancing across the holographic controls, "the structure's energy signature is unlike anything in our database. It's not just advanced, it's impossible." The object before them defied conventional physics. A massive geometric station, roughly spherical in shape, hung in space like a crystalline snowflake frozen in time. Its surface rippled with patterns of light that seemed to follow mathematical sequences, yet remained perfectly stable. "Full sensor sweep," Lyra ordered, her voice steady despite the thundering of her heart. "Dr. Isabella Romano, what's your analysis?" The ship's chief scientist adjusted her spectacles, a habit she maintained despite having perfect cybernetic vision enhancements. "The outer hull appears to be composed of programmable matter operating at a quantum level. We've theorized about such technology, but we're centuries away from achieving it. Or so I thought." The Pathfinder maintained a safe distance as its sensors probed the mysterious station. Each new reading raised more questions than answers. The structure's power source appeared to be a controlled quantum singularity, yet it produced no harmful radiation. Its surface was covered in markings that seemed to shift between different mathematical formulas. "Commander," called out Communications Officer Raj Patel, "we're receiving a transmission. It's using our own encryption protocols, but they're more advanced." Before Lyra could respond, every screen on the bridge transformed. Complex equations and diagrams flowed across them like digital rivers, gradually resolving into clear text: "Welcome home, children of Earth. The legacy awaits." Dr. Romano gasped. "These equations, they're solutions to problems we haven't solved yet. Look at this." She pointed to a floating diagram. "That's a complete unified field theory. We've been working on this for centuries." The station's surface began to shift, panels realigning to reveal what appeared to be a docking port that perfectly matched the Pathfinder's specifications. Another message appeared: "Enter and understand. Time is circular, and humanity is its own ancestor." Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. "Dr. Romano, what are you thinking?" "Commander," Isabella's voice trembled with excitement, "I don't believe this station was built by aliens. The mathematical principles, the engineering aesthetic, even the way it communicates, it's all fundamentally human. But it's human technology far beyond our current capabilities." First Officer Nathan Chen stepped forward, his expression troubled. "You're suggesting this station was built by humans? But that's impossible. We've only been in space for 3 centuries. "Perhaps," Isabella replied, "we're thinking about time too linearly." As if responding to her words, the station projected a massive hologram showing a timeline, but not a straight line. It was a complex spiral, with multiple loops and intersections, all converging on this moment. Lyra made her decision. "Prepare an exploration team. Dr. Romano, you'll lead the scientific analysis. Lieutenant Kumar, establish a stable dock. Whatever this station is, it was clearly meant for us to find it." As the crew prepared for their expedition, new markings appeared on the station's hull, transforming into words: "To understand your future, you must first understand your past. But beware, knowledge of what will be changes what is." The docking procedure was unnaturally perfect, as if the station's systems were anticipating their every move. When the airlock sealed with a soft hiss, the team stood before a corridor that seemed to breathe with living light. "Environmental readings are stable," reported Security Chief Valentina Koslovs, her augmented eyes scanning their surroundings. "Atmosphere matches Earth standard. Temperature optimal." "It's as if it was waiting for us," Lyra finished. The corridor ahead pulsed with soft blue light, leading them deeper into the station's mysteries. As they walked, their footsteps triggered subtle responses in the walls, ripples of light, whispers of data, and glimpses of equations that seemed to describe the very fabric of reality itself. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't reaching for the stars, it was mastering time itself. And somewhere in the depths of this impossible station lay answers that would rewrite not just their history, but their future as well. What they didn't know yet was that their discovery wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of a cycle that had repeated countless times before, each iteration bringing humanity closer to an ultimate destiny that transcended time itself. The real question wasn't who built the station, it was why they needed to build it in the first place. The Archive's message. The central chamber of the ancient station stretched impossibly upward, its walls lined with shifting holographic displays that seemed to respond to the exploration team's thoughts. Dr. Isabella Romano had never felt smaller, or more exhilarated. These are complete theoretical frameworks for technologies we've only dreamed about, she breathed, watching as complex schematics danced through the air. Quantum teleportation grids, consciousness transfer matrices, dimensional phase drives. Commander Lyra Harrison moved carefully through the chamber, noting how each display brightened as she approached. Focus on the immediate data, Doctor. What can you tell me about the station's purpose? Before Isabella could respond, the chamber's central pillar pulsed with brilliant light. A holographic figure materialized, a woman wearing what appeared to be a vastly more advanced version of their own uniform. Her image flickered with subtle imperfections, suggesting this was a recording rather than an AI. If you're seeing this message, the temporal confluence has begun, the figure announced. I am Admiral Rachel Martinez, Earth Defense Force, circa 2847. Though for you, that date holds no meaning. Yet. Security Chief Valentina Koslovs raised her weapon instinctively, but Lyra waved her down. That's nearly 500 years in our future, she murmured. The hologram continued, what you've discovered is more than a station. It's a nexus point, a temporal anchor designed to preserve humanity's timeline against an approaching catastrophe. We built this facility, or rather, we will build it, to ensure our species' survival across multiple temporal vectors. Massive screens materialized around them, showing scenes of devastation, entire solar systems consumed by what appeared to be tears in the fabric of spacetime itself. In our time, we face an enemy that doesn't just threaten our existence in space, but across all timelines. They're called the chronovores, entities that feed on temporal energy, consuming entire histories. First Officer Chen stepped forward, his face pale. Commander, these readings, they're not just recordings. The quantum date stamps indicate these events are happening now, in multiple time streams simultaneously. The hologram nodded, as if anticipating their realization. The Pathfinder's discovery of this station isn't chance. It's a carefully orchestrated moment, one that must occur precisely as it has countless times before. Within this facility lies the knowledge humanity needs to survive, but more importantly, it contains the seeds of the ancient fleet. New holograms sprang to life, showing massive ships of impossible design, their hulls rippling with the same programmable matter as the station. These vessels represent humanity's ultimate achievement, ships capable of navigating not just space, but time itself. They are both our greatest weapon and our greatest burden, for in creating them, we set in motion the very events that would draw the chronovore's attention. Isabella's hands trembled as she accessed a nearby console. Commander, these ship designs, they're complete. Construction protocols, quantum engineering specifications, even crew training manuals. Everything we'd need to build them. Because we did build them, Lyra realized. Or we will. And somehow, that future version of humanity found a way to send them back to us. The hologram of Admiral Martinez grew grave. You now face a choice that will echo across centuries. The knowledge contained within this station can advance human civilization by hundreds of years. But claiming this legacy comes with a price. The moment you begin accessing these archives, you create a temporal signal that the chronovores will detect. You will need to build the fleet, train its crews, and prepare for a war that will be fought across time itself. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Kumar's voice crackled over the comm, "Commander. We're detecting massive temporal distortions throughout the sector. Something's coming." The hologram's final words carried both warning and promise. The cycle begins again. Remember, humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our determination. It's our ability to rise together, across time and space, to face any challenge. The archive contains everything you need, but time is short. The chronivores have already sensed the awakening of this nexus point. Build the fleet. Save our past. Forge our future. As the hologram faded, new displays activated throughout the chamber, showing real-time feeds from across human space. Temporal anomalies were appearing near every major colony, disrupting communications and threatening to tear reality apart. Lyra stood in the center of the chaos, her mind racing. They had found humanity's greatest legacy, but it came with a burden that would reshape their entire civilization. The question wasn't whether they would accept this responsibility, the temporal distortions made that choice for them. The question was whether they could build the ancient fleet in time to save not just their present, but all of human history. "Dr. Romano," she called out, her voice firm with resolve, "begin downloading the archive. Lieutenant Kumar, notify Earth Command, priority ultraviolet. Tell them humanity just inherited its future." As the crew rushed to their tasks, none of them noticed the subtle shimmer in the corner of the chamber, a distortion in spacetime that watched with hungry, ancient interest. The cycle had indeed begun again, but this time, something was different. This time, the chronivores were learning too. Temporal paradox. 3 weeks after the discovery of the archive, reality began to unravel. Commander Lyra Harrison watched from the Pathfinder's bridge as another temporal shockwave rippled through space, distorting the very stars themselves. Earth's largest colony, Nova Terra, had reported hundreds of temporal duplicates, people meeting past and future versions of themselves in the streets. Technology flickered between different states of advancement, and buildings aged decades in minutes. "Status report," she ordered, her voice tight with tension. First Officer Chen gestured at the holographic display, where red warning indicators multiplied like cancer cells. 17 more temporal anomalies in the past hour alone. The archive's predictions were right, our access to the future technology is creating paradoxes faster than spacetime can compensate. Dr. Isabella Romano hadn't slept in days, her cybernetic enhancements working overtime to process the vast amounts of data from the archive. "The quantum equations are clear, Commander. Each time we implement advanced technology from the archive, we create ripples in the timeline. These ripples are attracting the chronivores." On the main screen, a visualization showed the spread of temporal distortions across human space. They formed a pattern now, a spiral of chaos closing in on Earth like a tightening noose. "Construction teams report the first prototype vessel is 30% complete," Lieutenant Kumar reported. "The quantum shipyards are operating at maximum capacity, but building these ships, it's like teaching Stone Age humans to build quantum computers." Lyra nodded grimly. "We don't have a choice. The archive showed us what happens if we fail. The chronivores don't just destroy worlds, they erase entire timelines. Every human that ever lived or will live, gone in an instant." A new alarm blared, and Security Chief Koslov's cursed in Russian. "Commander, temporal breach detected. Something's coming through." The space before them twisted, reality folding in on itself like crumpling paper. Through the distortion emerged a ship, or what was left of one. Its hull bore the same markings as the ancient fleet designs from the archive, but it was battle-scarred and partially phased out of normal spacetime. "We're receiving a transmission," Kumar announced. It's using protocols that don't exist yet." The bridge's holoscreen activated, showing a face that made everyone freeze. It was Lyra Harrison, older, scarred, wearing an admiral's uniform that seemed to shift between different designs. "This is Admiral Harrison of the Temporal Defense Force," the future version spoke, her voice distorted by temporal interference. "Primary timeline compromised. The chronovores, they've learned to predict our cycles. They're attacking earlier in each iteration. You must accelerate the timeline." "How?" Lyra asked her future self, fighting down the surreal vertigo of the moment. "The archive has a hidden protocol. Quantum temporal fusion. Dangerous, but only chance. You must." The transmission crackled. "They're here. Remember, the paradox is the solution. Embrace it. Don't fight the temporal." The message cut off as the future ship vanished in a burst of temporal energy. In its wake, space itself seemed to bleed, reality fraying at the edges. "Dr. Romano," Lyra turned to her chief scientist, "find that protocol. Now." Isabella's fingers flew across the archive's interface. "Commander. I found it. The quantum temporal fusion protocol, it's a way to deliberately merge multiple timelines, creating a stable temporal loop. But the energy requirements are astronomical, and the risks." "The risks don't matter anymore," Lyra interrupted. "Look." The main screen showed a new threat, massive void-black shapes moving through the spiral of temporal distortions. The chronovores had arrived, ancient beings of pure entropy drawn to the scent of paradox like sharks to blood. "They're not just feeding on our timeline," Isabella whispered, reading the archive's data. "They're consuming all possible versions of human history. Past, present, future, all of it will be gone unless we act." Lyra made her decision. "Begin the fusion protocol. Notify all colonies to prepare for temporal convergence. And get me Earth Command, they need to know what's coming." As the crew rushed to their stations, Lyra studied the tactical display. The chronovores were approaching from multiple temporal vectors, each one a living void in spacetime. The prototype ships under construction weren't ready, their temporal drives untested. But the archive had shown them one absolute truth: humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, it was their ability to adapt, to embrace the impossible. "Commander," Isabella called out, her voice filled with awe and terror, "the fusion protocol is starting to work. Multiple timelines are converging on this point in spacetime. But, there's something else. The archive, it's changing. New data is appearing, information that wasn't there before. On every screen, across every terminal, new information poured in, tactical data about the chronovores, weapon specifications, battle strategies learned through countless iterations of the time loop. Knowledge earned with blood and sacrifice across 1,000 possible futures, all converging on this moment. The paradox wasn't their enemy. It was their salvation. And as the first chronovore ships appeared in normal space, their void-black forms distorting reality around them, humanity prepared to fight a war that would determine not just their future, but every version of their history that ever was or could be. The temporal fusion had begun, and with it, the true purpose of the ancient fleet would finally be revealed. The ancient fleet awakens. The quantum shipyards over Earth pulsed with impossible energy as the temporal fusion protocol reached its peak. Commander Lyra Harrison watched from the Pathfinder's bridge as history itself seemed to converge, multiple timelines merging into a single point of infinite possibility. "Quantum temporal fusion at 70%, Dr. Isabella Romano announced, her voice steady despite the reality distortions rippling through the ship. "The prototype vessels, they're changing." On the main display, the half-constructed ships of the ancient fleet underwent a metamorphosis. Their hulls rippled like liquid mercury as knowledge from countless future timelines poured into their quantum cores. What had taken centuries to perfect in the original timeline was being compressed into moments. Multiple contacts. Lieutenant Kumar's hands danced across his console. "The chronovores are approaching from all temporal vectors. Count, impossible to determine. They're existing in multiple time streams simultaneously." First Officer Chen pointed to a new reading. "Commander, look at this. The temporal fusion isn't just affecting our ships, it's changing our crews. People are remembering skills they haven't learned yet, battles they haven't fought. Lyra felt it too, memories that weren't her own yet somehow were. Combat maneuvers against the chronivores, tactical data from 1,000 different engagements, victories and defeats across countless temporal iterations. This was the plan all along, she realized. The archive didn't just give us the technology, it gave us the experience to use it. We're not just building the fleet, we're becoming the crew it needs. The void-black forms of the chronivores emerged from the temporal distortions, each one a tear in the fabric of reality. They moved with terrible purpose, drawn to the confluence of timelines like moths to flame. All ships report ready, Kumar announced with newfound confidence, muscle memory from futures yet to come guiding his actions. Quantum cores online. Temporal drives synchronized. The ancient fleet hung in space around Earth, 12 ships of impossible design, their hulls flowing with programmable matter, weapons that could strike across time itself charging with energy pulled from multiple realities. "This is Commander Harrison to all vessels," Lyra spoke, feeling the weight of every timeline that had led to this moment. "The chronivores think they understand time, that it's something to be consumed, destroyed. But humanity has learned different. Time isn't a line to be broken or a resource to be depleted. It's a circle, and we are its guardians." The first chronivore attack came from 3 different temporal vectors simultaneously, past, present, and future converging in a single devastating strike. But the fleet was ready. Ships that existed in multiple times at once responded with weapons that rewrote cause and effect themselves. Temporal shield matrix holding, Isabella reported as reality buckled around them. "The fusion protocol, it's not just defending our timeline. It's healing the damage they've caused. Every victory here ripples backward and forward through time." The battle unfolded across dimensions of space and time that human language had no words to describe. The chronivores fought with the desperate fury of predators facing extinction, but the ancient fleet responded with the accumulated knowledge of humanity's entire future. Multiple temporal breaches. Kumar called out. "They're trying to split the timeline, divide our forces." "Not this time," Lyra commanded. "Execute Protocol Omega. All ships, temporal convergence formation." The fleet moved as one, their quantum cores pulsing in perfect synchronization. The programmable matter of their hulls flowed like liquid starlight, forming patterns that echoed through time itself. This was the moment the archive had prepared them for, the point where all timelines converged. "Quantum temporal fusion at maximum capacity," Isabella announced. "Commander, we're reaching temporal resonance." The archive, it's completing itself. On every screen, across every ship in the fleet, new data appeared, the final pieces of a puzzle that stretched across centuries. The chronivores hadn't discovered humanity by accident. They had been drawn to this exact moment, this precise confluence of timelines, because humanity had ensured they would be. "We needed them to come," Lyra understood at last. "Their presence here, now, creates the very temporal distortions that will lead us to build the archive in the first place. The paradox isn't a flaw in the plan, it is the plan." The chronivores reeled as understanding dawned in their ancient consciousness. They weren't the hunters here, they were part of a trap centuries in the making. A trap that would ensure humanity's survival across all possible timelines. As the fleet engaged in its final maneuver, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The future of humanity hung in the balance, but it was a future that had already happened, was happening, and would happen again. The circle was closing, and the true legacy of the ancient fleet was about to be revealed. Legacy of tomorrow. Time itself trembled as the ancient fleet executed its final protocol. Commander Lyra Harrison stood at the center of the Pathfinder's bridge, watching as multiple realities converged into a single, perfect moment. "Quantum temporal fusion stabilized," Dr. Isabella Romano reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The chronivores, they're being drawn into the convergence point." The void-black forms of the ancient entities writhed in space, caught in a trap that transcended time itself. Around them, the ancient fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum cores pulsing with energy drawn from every possible timeline. All ships report temporal alignment complete, Lieutenant Kumar announced. The archive is evolving. The station that had started everything pulsed with new life, its programmable matter surface flowing like quicksilver. Inside its quantum processors, humanity's entire timeline was being rewritten, not erased, but perfected, each iteration of the loop adding new layers of complexity and understanding. I understand now, Lyra said softly, centuries of accumulated memories flowing through her consciousness. We didn't build the fleet to destroy the chronivores. We built it to complete the circle. First Officer Chen nodded, his own memories of futures yet to come providing clarity. The chronivores were drawn to our timeline because they sensed the paradox. But the paradox exists because they were drawn here. We created our own destiny. The ancient fleet began its final maneuver, 12 ships moving as one to create a temporal containment field. Inside it, the chronivores found themselves trapped not by technology, but by causality itself. Their very presence had ensured humanity would develop the means to contain them. Temporal convergence reaching critical threshold, Isabella announced. Commander, the archive is showing new data. Our future selves didn't just leave us technology, they left us a choice. On the main display, a new set of coordinates appeared, showing a point in spacetime where reality itself was thin. A gateway, not just through space, but through time itself. We can end this, Lyra realized. Not with destruction, but with understanding. The chronivores aren't our enemies, they're part of the universe's natural cycle. They don't destroy timelines, they transform them. The void-black entities ceased their struggle, ancient consciousness recognizing truth. In containing them, humanity had proven itself worthy not of victory, but of partnership. Quantum signatures stabilizing, Kumar reported. The temporal distortions, they're becoming ordered. Structured. The archive's final protocol revealed itself, not a weapon, but a bridge. The ancient fleet hadn't been built for war, but for transformation. In trapping the chronivores, humanity had created a connection between linear time and something far more profound. All ships, execute final sequence, Lyra commanded. The circle ends where it begins. The fleet moved into its ultimate configuration, forming a pattern that echoed through all of spacetime. The chronivores, now understanding their role, added their own power to the convergence. Together, they would create something that had never existed before, a stable loop in the fabric of reality itself. Temporal fusion complete, Isabella whispered. Commander, we've done it. The archive isn't just a repository of knowledge anymore. It's a nexus point between all possible human timelines. The void-black forms of the chronivores transformed, becoming channels through which humanity's potential could flow freely. Past, present, and future merged not into chaos, but into harmony. Send the signal, Lyra ordered. All of human space needs to understand what we've achieved here. As the message spread across the colonies, reality settled into its new pattern. The ancient fleet would become the guardians not just of humanity's timeline, but of time itself. The archive would continue its work, guiding each new generation to this moment of transformation. Commander, Kumar called out, we're receiving a transmission, from ourselves. On the screen appeared an endless succession of images, the Pathfinder and its crew across countless timelines, each one adding their own chapter to humanity's story. They were no longer bound by linear time but had become part of something greater. The legacy isn't the technology, Lyra understood at last. It's this moment, this choice, repeated across infinity. Every time we reach this point, we choose to transform rather than destroy. That's what makes us human. As the ancient fleet took up its eternal vigil, Lyra looked out at the stars, no longer just points of light, but gateways to every possible future. The chronivores would continue their work, but now in partnership with humanity, maintaining the delicate balance of temporal energy across all realities. The circle was complete. The paradox had become the solution. And in the heart of the archive, the story of humanity's greatest achievement began again, as it always had, and always would. For in the end, humanity's true legacy wasn't the power to conquer time, but the wisdom to become its stewards. The ancient fleet would sail on, not as conquerors or defenders, but as guardians of a legacy that transcended time itself.